from my experiences, I know that we both kind of share that you're sober right now.
Yeah.
Off of everything. And I spent the better part of 9 months last year sober from everything. And I found a lot of the time that like I questioned, well, if I'm not using to heighten myself or like change how I feel, then how am I going to find inspiration? And a good artist, an artist that I like, he does illustrations for the New Yorker. He's always done illustrations for the New Yorker. I think every issue, he talks about how inspiration is for amateurs. And if you think about how the effect that drugs have on you are more of like a side effect, like it's not something that makes you who you are. And I guess this also ties back into how music doesn't make you who you are. Your pain is going to exist with you no matter what you're using to numb it out. And what I found to like find creativity in sobriety is try to understand that pain, try to like confront that pain head on and be constructive with it so that you can have something to write about. Like at least for myself, when I was writing, a lot of the stuff was like catharsis for my own experiences. And of course I was using drugs to heighten that, but yeah, I had to confront that pain. I had to look at it and experience it, because there's really no point in being sober unless you're trying to do a lot of soul searching. And I found a lot of people that I've met that they just like, well, if I'm not doing heroin anymore, I'm not going to have any more creativity. And the pain didn't come from you using the drugs. You may have found some pain while you're doing it.
You did the drugs because you had the pain.
Yeah. And so just because a lot of people think that they can throw away that history and be like, all right, since I'm not doing this substance anymore, insert substance here, then my pain is gone too. And they just try to like basically white knuckle everything and push it away or compartmentalize it. And they don't realize that that's really a time for you to kind of like come out and address it. That's a time for you to find something. And I've found that a lot of my own inner strife is things that I can't really physically change, if that makes sense. So what do I do about that? I find a medium. I find a catharsis. I find some way to understand it or get a different perspective.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
But sorry to take that from you.
No, not at all. Lately, well, the thing about it is I'd spent so much of my time, maybe that was the reason, or maybe it was just plain stupidity. I'm not entirely sure why. I sort of just steamed or wallowed in that pain for so long. I didn't do it because I thought it made me more creative at all. Honestly,
masochistic reasons?
I always felt, yes, to some extent, and I always felt it kind of got in the way of things.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
But really,
there's an illusion.
It's more where I'm at now is trying to change those things that have been wrong. And in the past 7 months, I've done a lot and worked toward a lot. So it's more about trying to. I'm at a point now where I'm trying to figure all of this and all of everything out. That's what I'm trying to do, is just figure all of this out and work past a lot and just put in a lot of work. Because really, feeling good or getting better at all with any of the struggles isn't going to come from any outside source whatsoever. Nothing. It has to come from within. So trying to find that to where I can fix these things and just work past it, not for the sake of anything other than just not feeling like just absolute hell all the time is where I'm at. So I think being creative in any way falls into that a lot. It's just, I don't know. I don't really think about it like that at this point. I'm just kind of trying to figure out literally the technical side of it at this point. And I know that everything else will...
Yeah, because you got a new toy that's like the most toy you've ever had of anything.
True, and I love it. I bought a Kemper. And I love it. Very wise decision.
Mm-hmm.
But...
for musically, maybe not financially.
Yeah, But I'm trying to just get everything in order. And there's a lot of things I've been watching or looking into to help a lot of lifestyle changes. Something that we may end up podcasting
Absolutely.
which we talked about with
That'll be the next
Corey.
manic episode.
Yeah. I don't know how deep we want to go. And okay, so I'll say this much about it. I'll say this much is realizing things that are negative for me, and
these are things I realized were negative for me a while ago.
it's not just that.
Oh, okay.
I know what you're.
I thought that's where you were going. I'm sorry.
Just
Okay.
this is in general.
All right. Teaser
Are you talking about picking your nose?
No.
What's
I still do that.
Yeah, I still do that too.
Fucking gross.
I eat my boogers.
Realizing when you feel negatively, and really realizing that, and paying attention to the things you do in the middle of that emotion, because certain things feed that.
It's more than just intellectualizing that, though. You really have to know what you need to do about it.
I'm trying to see the things that
We're
I'm
so
doing that are
But so dumb.
seeing the things that I'm doing that are making things worse and changing those,
Right.
and or seeing the causes of things.
To be a doer and not just an assessor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that, and it's funny how much everything is acted for a catalyst for another thing. Because once you eliminate that one thing, it makes you feel better and gives you.
That's
just in general.
the power of Pine Sol.
Yeah.
Baby.
So pretty much that's where I'm at with all of it.
Okay. Cool. I mean, now you were talking about you want to segue back into musicians. This will be the last little thing we talk about before we close out tonight. You were talking about how certain bands, their sound changes and either gets worse or better before or after drugs.
What's a band that got worse after drugs?
A band that got worse after taking them, after stopping taking them.
After stopping taking them.
After stopping taking them? Well, because, okay.
We can even consider when they started taking
There's
drugs.
a couple of examples I can think of off the top of my head. There's a couple of examples I can think of. One of the first one is like seeing the evolution of music in general from the Beatles taking drugs. Because when I thought of the Beatles, I didn't consider that aspect of things until I saw Walk Hard.
It's great that you brought that up.
Well, until I saw Walk Hard, I was like, oh, okay, the Beatles, they started doing all these things and their music got way more experimental because of it. And they introduced all these different types of styles and genres and crossed over things. And really their music opened up and became world music, you know. And then I have artists like Devin Townsend who got completely sober and made something like Ziltoid, or went and started doing Devin Townsend Project, and his music became... I guess he stopped focusing on things as much when he got sober.
Trying to be like ethereal and
he quit trying to be as obsessive over each minute detail and started being okay when he was done with something. Like he was like, okay, I know I'm done now.
Art is never done.
Well, yeah. Well, but basically he didn't take super long going in and trying to fix everything. He's like, he knows when to say stop. You know, when to be okay with something. And sometimes he overchanges things and you end up with the Annika version of Fallout, which I prefer the Dev version of Fallout far more.
Same.
Yeah, exactly.
What I was going to add something about the Beatles with their drug use. George Harrison actually, towards the end or later part of his life in their career, he actually started to realize that he wanted to be able to produce these same effects that he got from LSD and psilocybin on his own.
With music?
With meditation. He wanted to be able to reach that without having to rely on a substance to bring him that inspiration.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's written books on it. That's why he learned to play the sitar. It's why they went to India and like learned all about Hinduism. There's a really good documentary on it.
Because we are the Beatles.
It's on Netflix. Bum bum.
Bum, bum. But yeah.
We are the 4 Beatles from Liverpool.
Reminds me when the Beatles, the 4 Beatles, us.
From Liverpool.
Yes, we are from Liverpool.
So yeah, what else?
It's the purpose of being an artist, like making use of your struggle for others to find hope. Like
Right.
there's no other point in being an artist if you're just going to talk about shit all the time.
Right.
Something that comes to mind from around the same time as the Beatles. It's a gentleman. There was a band called the 13th Floor Elevators, headed by a guy named Rocky Erickson, who there is a very fascinating documentary on called.
It just pulls that out. Just
It's called "You're Gonna Miss Me."
okay.
Is the name of this documentary.
You're gonna miss me.
And this gentleman did so much. I think they estimated at a point, because he was institutionalized in the late 60s, early 70s. Because he'd done over 100 hits of acid within a year.
At once,
Like within a year.
I've
in
gotten
a
close to
row.
Well, like he fried his brain and was institutionalized and labeled as a schizophrenic,
Oh,
and went from making this very hippie, happy, psychedelic rock. But an interesting thing is the after effect, and I'm gonna pull up this album just to show you some song names. Started making very
what's it called?
straightforward rock. The album,
Mhm.
just Rocky Erickson. I believe the Evil One is the name, because he started having. I mean, he was constantly having hallucinations and went schizophrenic to the point where he started seeing like spirits and demons. Yeah, like, and this album, even though it sounds very much so, yeah, it's called The Evil One, with songs like Two-Headed Dog, I Walked with a Zombie, Night of the Vampire. It sounds like very Alice Cooper horror-themed
Yeah.
rock. However, the fascinating things about this is because he went so far off the deep end from that this is what he believed. And there is a really beautiful song on there called If You Have Ghosts that lyrically, it's just funny how the link between that and insanity, which is something I think about
This dude
a
looks
lot.
fucking crazy.
Well,
Looks like you'd listen to him.
That's after, yeah, that's after everything. But it makes me, I don't know how deep I want to.
Very Charles
Yeah.
Manson-esque.
Yeah,
Put a photo of it right here.
the documentary on him is really worth a watch. It's really good. I love that incarnation of his music more than I do the 13th Floor Elevators.
Okay.
That stuff is really good. It sounds more like old school rock from the time period that it's from, but lyrically it's fascinating because it literally went crazy from doing too much acid.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's just an effect.
I wonder if that's because I remember in the what's its face in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, he starts taking all those drugs and he's obsessed with writing the perfect song, and he's like 50,000 didgeridoos. I need an army of didgeridoos. And he's like, they have a goat in there, and like he's just obsessed with this one song on this album, and his hair is all crazy, and he's taken LSD. He's jumped on a trampoline for like 3 days straight.
That's more of a reference to the Beatles and like Sgt. Pepper, stuff like that. That's what that's a reference to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being super obsessed about making sure there's so much shit in there. But so what were you saying about artists that have gotten better after getting sober?
One mentionable that I can think of would be Circa Survive,
Okay.
because of course I don't know if you know who they are. Have you listened to them?
The name is familiar, but I can't.
We should definitely check some out so you can hear it. But
Yeah,
they I know
Post-rock.
Anthony Green for sure. He was a very big heroin addict when he wrote the first 2 albums, and when they got into recovery, they started working a program, and they've written I think probably 3 albums since then.
Okay.
And they're all incredible albums. Like they've gotten so much better. Like if you go back and listen to the rough cuts of what they were doing back then, it's all so sloppy. Anthony is just like all over the place. His vocals are trash.
So like Jacherta and On Letting Go, or when
Yeah.
they were on heroin.
and and then they reproduced those albums after on
Okay.
later on. But incredible albums. Another one would be Blink-182. I
Blink-182
don't know.
got better after they got sober. I don't know. I listened to their music when
I
they
know.
first came out, and they probably weren't sober then.
Yeah, if you think of what's the drummer's name? Travis Barker. Yeah, he was a heroin addict.
Oh.
He's an incredible drummer. I don't know. Maybe there's some people that have just been like done drugs their entire life, and they're still amazing guitarists, like Keith Richards.
He's not that amazing.
He gets his blood filtered.
Yeah,
like
obviously. Dallas is every
he
other
gets
day.
new blood. Like they take his blood out and replace it with blood.
Dialysis.
And
Yeah.
replace it with blood.
Yeah,
They replace it with Jack Daniels.
That's it's like a good death metal band name.
Are we gonna
Replace
close it
my
out?
blood with blood.
We're gonna close this thing out.
Yeah, I think so, Stu.
Okay.
If you want to.
All right. So
Final words.
this has been, I think, the goal with Stusic, just to close this out, was to sit down with a lot of local people and musicians, and it's kind of just
Yeah.
evolved into this.
We're gonna
which
do more
is
of these.
discussing music. There is a lot of people that I want to have on and redo. A couple of people who were on the initial poor run, but I'll have those people back on.
We're gonna put a
Anyway.
compilation of all of the shitty ones together and just segments of those and
In
have
time.
them. Yeah,
In
that's a
time, not
Patreon
yet.
thing. Come check
But-
us out.
But yeah, so that's the plans for this in the future. And thank you guys for the people who have been watching, be it on the old channel or on this new one that we're about to upload.
Right.
For watching.
Yep. Stuniverse.
This is Daniel out. Watch Alan Tutor.
Yeah.
At,
Tutorial.
Alan Tutorial. Watch it.
You want to plug anything? You got anything you need to plug? Your band or
Watch
your
Alan Tutorial. Check out Rats Smell Like Shit. That's my band. We're a death metal band. Check them out right there.
Apogeon. Apogeon.
Apogeon on SoundCloud. APOGAEON.
Yeah, that. There you
Check
go.
it out.
And I'm always here. JB, Joel Bailey, whatever you want to call me. I don't have a stage name yet. We'll figure it out. Always trying to get it looking nice and sounding good. So, thank you, Stu, for
Much
running it.
appreciated.
I'm probably going to eventually give up music and go to school for psychology or philosophy. Who knows?
Watch Alan Tutorial.
Bye, guys.
On that. Bye.
I forgot where I was going. I'm high. I shouldn't have said that.
on marijuana, y'all. Not on anything else.
It's
Just-
medicinal.
It's medicinal. It helps with his memory issues. He has problems remembering things too much. So.